Namaste. How are you, my friend? We are understanding the journey of life. And today we are going to talk about and understand how to learn to live in wisdom all the time. Why? Yourself is, do you love peace? Peace is your nature. So that is living in wisdom. Do you love happiness? Yes, I love my happiness. So happiness is my nature. So through the wisdom, I understand how to live in happiness all the time. Do I love to survive? Did I ask you a big question? Yes, I like to survive. And that is what the existence is. So when I don't live in the wisdom that we covered, and you remember the story of a monkey became a monk going to the farmers. So what he did, the monkey learned how to detach myself from an object seeking happiness there where it is not. So he realized it is not that. That's why the farmer thrashed him. Second point that we have understood that the knowledge is realized in stages. It cannot happen in a day. We have understood the seed doesn't become a tree overnight. And the basic principle is constant listening and learning until the knowledge is realized, constant listening and learning and practice. So that helps us to drop the craving and the attachment that leads to the right knowledge. Right knowledge makes the mind steady. It continues to live within, and living within makes us free from the suffering. Do you still remember that we discussed about that the mind does not go anywhere? It imagines thoughts, ideas, feelings, good, bad. Mind simply imagines. Sometimes we say my mind has gone to Europe. Really? No, mind imagined Europe here. So once we understand that particular fact, then we can remove the defects of the mind that we discussed again. The defects of the mind. Defects of the mind is fear of pain, birth, death, likes and dislikes, uh, pain and pleasure, and a sense of ignorance is there. And they cause the impurity in the mind. And once we purify the mind, we also understood in the last session, I think, that what we understood that the ultimate goal of our life is self discovery. Say, for example, if I know my real self, I know the nature of the world. Pay attention. I know the real self. Who am I? Peace, happiness, love, wisdom. And at the same time, I know the nature of the world. The nature of the world constantly changing, fleeting. And that changing nature is not accepted fully by the mind because of attachment. and the craving. Mine says, here is peace and happiness in my relationship, but everyone is constantly changing. I don't see anything that is constant, and it leads me to problem. So today, with that understanding in the background, let us go back to the basics and understand. We have understood the nine primary practices, three hidden practices, and followed by the secondary practices. What is the hidden practices? Listening and learning. At least, I must have the knowledge. And when I have the knowledge, I think about it. I believe you have started thinking. Second is, after thinking, I apply it to my action. I like you, I love you, and you don't love me. You see the ignorance? Now I express that love to everyone. Why? I get the reward. So the come to the primary practices. Normally we say primary practices have to be done in the mind, viveka, the discernment, vairagya, the dispassion, the six inner treasures, huh? Relaxation of the mind, withdrawal of the mind, purification of the mind, endurance, faith, and one pointedness. And that leads to a burning desire for freedom. Now your mind realizes the way I'm living and thinking and working in the world is guided and dictated by a lot of ignorant attributes, likes and dislikes, attachment and detachment, pain and pleasure, craving, getting carried away. So what happens? They are gone. Remember, the goal of life, self discovery. Why should I fall back into small attachment, detachment, likes and dislikes, etc.? So when we say viveka, it is a cognitive ability. It is intellectual understanding. Dispassion, when we say, results from the discernment, and discernment is the cause of dispassion. Dispassion means simply neither attachment nor detachment. It doesn't mean that I become an inert. I have a freedom from both likes and dislikes, attachment and detachment. Why? Because if we do not live in dispassion, the mind will return and it will become impulsive, it will become habitual. Let us go and understand it deeply so that we can live in wisdom all the time. But before that, understand very clearly what we will get. We will not get anything. Why? Peace is within me. Peace is my nature. At present, I do not live in peace 24 by 7. What I will get? I will get a knowledge. This is the way to live in peace 24 by 7. This is the way to live in happiness, love, and wisdom 24 by 7, not getting carried away by the mind, not entering into a conflict. settle in your mind today about discernment. First, primary practice. Intellect takes over the mind. Mind is not running after what is false, what you like, what you dislike. Viveka, the discernment, helps us to know what is real. And then you realize the question that I asked, do you love peace? Yes. Then you will say, I love peace and I'm already in peace. Do you love happiness? Yes, I love happiness because it is my nature and I'm in the state of happiness. So, what happens? Viveka, the discernment, is the cause of the second primary practice, which is dispassion. Dispassion will come naturally as the degree of discernment goes on increasing. The dispassion is the result. So, means dispassion is an effect. Now, if I continue to live in dispassion, the effects are six treasures. And what is dispassion? That mind is not carried away by pleasure, pain, likes, dislikes, duality, conflict. What the mind is doing by getting carried away by likes, dislikes, being egoistic, duality, and a conflict and a craving, it is wasting energy. By thinking about the desire fulfillment, by getting the craving and obsession, they are all gone. So when they are gone, what happens from deep inside? The sixth wealth of the mind comes in the front, and they are integrated into our thought, into our speech, into our action. What is going to happen? The mind will declare, I'm relaxed now and calm, ready to undertake the journey in my day to day life. The mind will declare, no worries. I won't allow these sense organs to go outside with the likes and dislikes, but I will see what is right and good. What is right and good? Third treasure, the third wealth, is known as uparati, which means we are mindful all the time of my duty, not what I like should do and what I dislike should leave, even if it is right to do. So I never escape from the action. What is right, I should do it. I am doing it. I must do it. So, what happens when we follow all the three? It is an effect of dispassion, and dispassion is an effect of discernment. Normally, we separate them all together. That's a big mistake. So, what is the starting point? The viveka, the discernment, the thinking in the mind, contemplation about the reality, the way you are learning and listening. So, that is why I emphasize that you have to listen and learn it again and again and again until the knowledge settles in the intellect. So, the fourth wealth is known as atitiksha. Titiksha means endurance of pairs of opposites. We have millions of impressions. We are following the practice, we are living in peace and happiness, and suddenly something happens and everything seems that we have gone back to the same state. It is because of the past impressions. that is already stored in the mind. So, what should I do? Endurance. Endurance of pairs of opposites, of likes and dislikes, pain and pleasure. Hold on. Tell the mind. Now, mind is already in a calmer state. So, tell the mind, please. I'm holding it. I'm enduring it. So, when you endure, then you become free from the worries, crying, being upset. So, that leads to the faith. Faith. Now there is a natural faith in yourself deeper within, and on the principles of Eastern wisdom, you have realized that it is possible. That gives you a one pointedness of the mind. One pointedness means the mind is living within, moving within naturally. So now what happens when you have, so understand the first practice is the discernment, is the cause, and the effect is dispassion. And when you live in dispassion, the effect is the sixth wealth of the mind. So once you have the sixth wealth of the mind, there is a natural tendency, inclination, a burning desire for freedom from insecurity, from fear, from likes and dislikes, from pain and pleasure. Why? That is the goal of life. So it means what? When we practice the very first, the viveka in the mind, we already discussed about the mind and the intellect. We have to take over the mind by the intellect. And how? By clarity, by understanding. What is that clarity and understanding? By inquiring. What is the inquiry? Self inquiry. What is the self inquiry? I must know who am I with reference to the discernment. So, what happens? We become the highest level of a seeker. And when we are highest level of a seeker, then it is the real beginning of the journey. I live into that state of viveka, discernment all the time. That is why. That is why the master says, Satasangatve nisasangatvam nisangatve nirmohatvam nirmohatve nischal tattvam nischal tattve nijivanamukti. The last point means the freedom from the suffering once and for all. How? That is an effect. Effect of what? The mind is living within. That is an effect. What is the cause? We remove the delusion from the mind, what is real and unreal. And what is what this effect of removal of delusion comes from? Listening and learning the principles of Eastern wisdom. So understand another point that is very important even before we proceed further. You are learning and listening will help to gain an intellectual understanding even if you feel you are not a seeker. But because you are listening and learning and you continue the journey, the time comes you become the seeker. And the moment you become the seeker from that point, you will discover the real self. What is tattva? That is that is what is the journey. Now understand a little bit about little more deeper about discernment. Discernment is nothing but about clarity. Clarity comes by understanding. Understanding comes by classifying, separating. There is the neighbor's house, here is my. I classified, separated. Here is a smartphone, here is a monitor, here is you, there is I am. Classifying. So, here in the method of discernment, we separate real from the unreal. Not, it is there is my neighbor and here I am. That is simple classification that we can easily do it and we know it. We need not to discuss about it. So we need to classify what is real and unreal. So, at a primary level, I have already told you, listening and learning these principles constantly, repeated listening and then contemplating leads to detachment or dispassion. Dispassion leads to removes the delusion. Delusion leads to the steadiness of the mind, and steadiness of the mind. That means the mind is living within, and ultimately it makes us a seeker. And in that moment, once we are the highest level of a seeker, we will understand certain fundamental principles of self discovery, and it will take us to the journey of self knowledge. So, when we say discernment, we are talking of separating real self from the unreal, real from the unreal. So we should have a clarity what is real, what is unreal, what is false, what is truth, what is ignorance and what is wisdom, what is mortality and what is immortality. First point of the real is that it does not change. What does not change is the unchanging reality. How old I am? 61. But you told me 10 years ago that you are 50 years old. What is real, unchanging reality? You told me you were 50 years old, but now you are saying that you are 60 years old. You are changing? You are not real. So where I'm pointing myself, I am pointing age of the body. The real I does not change. It is beyond the time and the space. Beyond the time and the space. I'm not telling a lie. Now I realize it is the body that is constantly changing, and what is changing is not me. So, real means the truth, unchanging, factual, real. Knowledge does not change. There is no alternative fact. False is changing. So it does not mean that body is not there. Only one thing to be understood, that I am not the body. So I falsified the ignorance. What is that ignorance? That I am the body. Are you getting it? Do you see the same way when we say that I am unhappy? So I have to ask myself, do I want to remove unhappiness? one, or am I seeking an object for happiness? I'm seeking to buy a smartphone to be happy. So we have to find out whether the happiness really exists in the phone or not. So phone is an object, and that object does not contain happiness because it is inert. But my mind is pushing me. What is that pushing? I am yet to become a qualified seeker. There's sometimes my mind pushes me because of likes and dislikes, because of ego, because of attachment with the body, and then the problem enters in our life. I am stressed. So am I seeking the removal of the stress, or am I seeking an object to remove the stress? Am I hungry? So, do I want a food to eat, or do I want any other object that claims it removes hunger? Not possible. I am helpless. So when I feel myself help, am I seeking help from the Eastern wisdom or not? Do I remember these principles or not? Instantly you remember these principles and you're happy. The mother in US, mother in India, whose son is living in US. So how long it takes for a mother to remember her son who is living in States? Ah, she knows it. She remembers how long it takes you to remember that peace is your nature, happiness is you, love is you inside you. At the time when the mind takes you to the journey of the stress, duality, conflict, craving, etc., etc., the moment you remember, you are there. So if you are there, you are the highest level of a seeker. If not, you are learning and listening to become the highest level of a seeker. Again, I'm repeating for the sake of understanding, do you love peace? Answer is obviously yes, that is my nature. Do I love happiness? Happiness is my nature. Do I love knowledge? Yes, knowledge is my nature. Do I love to survive? Yes, existence is my nature. Do I love stress? No. So, stress is a foreign matter that has entered into me due to ignorance. So, what I should do, I should remove the stress. Rather than take the help of some object to remove the stress, fear, insecurities. And what we will get, ultimately, we find our real self. So, through again, we feed the mind to drop that instinctive, impulsive, and habitual nature. How sun is sun because of heat, fire is fire because of heat, sun is sun because of light. That is how we. Sugar is sugar because of sweetness, salt is salt because of saltiness. I am because of permanent peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. It is within me. If you do not think, nothing will happen. Why? Because the mind is already thinking about stress, likes and dislikes, craving, reactions. So if you do not replace the false notion with the right notion, nothing is going to happen. What is our essential nature? I am what I am because of sweetness of a sugar, because of the peace. Same thing. That should remain present in the mindful. We are always mindful. When we see means of knowledge. So, what is going to happen when we practice this discernment in the mind during the day in our thought, speech, and action? What is going to happen? Eastern wisdom, I told you, is a means of knowledge. My eyes are a means of knowledge to see the name and the form. I need not to do anything when the wall, the monitor is in front of me. I get the knowledge of the monitor and the wall. Same thing is going to happen the moment one day you wake up in the morning. I am real self. I see that. That means of the knowledge makes the real self available to my mind all the time, 24 by 7. I am peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. One master used to give an example that your nose is meant to smell. You're passing through a fish market. The smell of the fish tells you there is a fish market. You need not to do anything. So once we become a seeker and we continue the journey, the time comes when you wake up. I am real self. I am peace. I am love. I am wisdom. This is what happens in our life. The way the fish market is available, and I pass through that, I come to know there is a fish market. Real self is always available. Knowledge should take place. That is why we are learning and listening. So now see that once we have understood this level, the mind somewhere deep inside say, yes, I have understood the real self, but I do not know the real self. Why? Because the knowledge of the real self is not available. Why? Because there is a confusion, there is a wrong notion. What should I do? Self inquiry. Where to start to become the seeker? What else I can say? See the sequence. I have understood what is real self, but I do not know real self. Why I do not know real self? Because the knowledge of the real self is not available. Why the knowledge of the real self is not available still, even we are highly intelligent. Confusion, wrong notion is there in the intellect. How to remove that confusion? Confusion means two things are mixed up, so I should remove it. What is the way? The self inquiry in the line of the principles of the Eastern wisdom. Science is not clear who we are, so we are not going there. We leave the science as it is until we find the real self, and then we will bring physiology, biochemistry, etc., etc., etc. How to become a seeker? That is what we are learning. Every moment I experience the world around me. So that experience means the life. Life is a series of experiences. And the experiences, good, bad, high, low, with the liking, disliking, hate, and love, depends on my perception, means my experience, means my knowledge. My perception, my experience, my knowledge, all the same thing. I want to get rid of these likes, dislikes, good, bad, high, low, because it depends on my perception, and my perception comes from my perception, my experience, my knowledge comes from the mind. So can I say the mind has set the frequency like FM and AM inside on the impurity, and that impurity causes likes and dislikes, so I must remove the wrong notion and false perception. Many people see a woman an object of pleasure, not women as a women. So the frequency in the mind is set for seeking pleasure. Women is an object of pleasure. That creates a problem. Smartphone causes an object of pleasure. Why my husband? Why my wife? Why and how? Leave this why and how pertaining to the others. Look at your mind, your perception becomes clear. My perception, my knowledge, my experience causes pain and pleasure. But I love happiness and love is my nature. So I try to move to happiness. My knowledge is causing me ignorance, but I love knowledge because it is my nature. So I try to know a thing to get rid of ignorance. My perception is either opinion about me. I feel happy or unhappy, that depends on my perception, my knowledge, my experience. I do not inquire further. You are bad? Yes, bad. From where the bad come? From the mind. What I have to do with the bad or good? Nothing. I don't think about it. So when I don't think, the mind says, now I am in charge of your life. You see, my mind says, my perception, my knowledge, my experience is you. Then what? Then you are stressed. And mind says, no, no, I'm not stressed. You are stressed. That is why I always say, I cannot ignore and reject who am I. I must know who am I. I must know. I cannot reject to live in ignorance with a false notion about the world. I must know what is the true nature of the world. I cannot ignore and reject not knowing what is this existence. So when I do not reject, I know the true nature of who am I, existence in the world, then I know how to live, think, and act in the world in peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. So the problem is resolved by the viveka, by the discernment, by discernment. And that confusion, that delusion, what is this confusion about perception? Perception, my knowledge, my experience in daily life, and that results into confusion, conflict, ignorance, perception, projection, perversion, conflict. So I want to live in permanent peace, love, and wisdom. Is it true? Yes, is it true? Is it natural, inherent, everlasting urge and desire for all of us? Answer is yes. But I'm still unhappy and confused and have the conflict. So, first, desire to be happy forever is already there inside. My mind should not create other desire. Only the perception. We have to remain mindful. Mind is seeking happiness from an object and a person and a thing outside by understanding, by thinking that this any object outside does not contain happiness. Can dollar brings happiness? Bill Gates would have been full of love and happiness, but he says he lived his loveless life for 27 years. So it means no dollar bill, whether it is with me or you, declares or has is written happiness there. But it does not mean we cannot reject the importance of a dollar in our transactional life for food, for clothes, for home, etc., etc. So, as long as this mind is asking, demanding, desiring happiness in the world outside from the objects, people, things, remember yourself, we are pursuing three goals in life. We forget the right goal of life. When we forget the right goal of life, the fourth one, then I don't see any confusion. When there is no confusion, viveka is there, discernment is there, and when the discernment is there, the knowledge of the reality will definitely take us to bring an end to the suffering. First confusion, remember all the time. First confusion is I'm searching outside. What I'm searching outside, it is inside me. Think of it. I'm anxious. I'm not searching inside me. I'm angry. I'm not searching inside me. I'm upset. I'm not seeing that peace and happiness is my nature. I'm searching outside. First confusion. Second confusion is permanent happiness. Mind does not want to believe that there is a permanent happiness because it experienced outside. There is no permanent peace, happiness in the objects outside. It does not mean it is not inside me. Are you getting it? Our mind, in fact, our mind perceives, it receives the knowledge, it receives the experiences, and it has been receiving the experiences from the objects of the world that there is no permanent happiness, peace, love, wisdom. Where? In the world outside. But it has yet to search inside myself. That is the journey of the Eastern wisdom. So ask yourself, did you search inside when you are unhappy? Let me search. So, second confusion, that permanent happiness means not changing. Second, that is the confusion. Third is Third is very important. Am I seeking freedom from insecurity, fear, sorrow within me? Or I want to escape the fear by searching an object that will give me security and fearlessness. There is no object or a person outside in the world that can ever give me permanent security. That will help me attain fearlessness. Why? It is here. So that, when we have that idea, that understanding, then the life starts changing. So the conclusion is the right desire should be there. In thought, you wake up in the morning, you are in the office, you're driving. Where is the right desire? The peace is my essential nature, it is within me. Mind, you have to discover that peace and happiness within me, not outside in any object or a person or a thing. My intellect should take over the mind all the time. Second is the right effort. Right effort is based on the right knowledge. Right knowledge is knowledge of the Eastern wisdom. Knowledge of the Eastern wisdom comes by listening and learning repeatedly. It does not mean that I have to repeat forever. The time comes, your intellect is settled in that knowledge with a clarity, with an understanding separating the real from the unreal. That is what it means by the right effort. Third is, I should respect time. Time is patience. You're making an effort now. You're making an effort now. Days after days, weeks after weeks. It is something like the farmer plows the field, waters, sows the seed, and then you are waiting, waiting, waiting. That is patience. Time is patience. Time is of essence. But mind says, no, I did the practice, nothing happened. Maybe because of some impurity lies there. The fourth factor, sometime I have seen people in a year or so, they are awakened. And then they start realizing that state of peace and happiness is irreversible. You may have challenges outside in the world, including the body and the business and work, but internal peace is always there. It is like a flame inside, deep inside your heart, is constantly working behind you. It keeps you cool and calm. When you have challenges outside and you face those challenges, sometime it takes time. So that is known as the grace and the blessing. Just to remind you, just to remind you, there are two ways of inquiry. One is simple inquiry. You may ask, where is your house? So you don't know where is the address of your house. So you don't know exactly the address. You don't have any information. So I give you the address and you have the knowledge. So that is known as simple inquiry. But the second inquiry is about the self inquiry. And the second inquiry is the self inquiry. It has to be done with the power of discernment. Discernment in Sanskrit is viveka. It means separating, classifying. Why? To have a clarity, to have an understanding. Suppose you have two addresses, two addresses of my house, but I have only one house. So you know that I have only one house, but you have two addresses. So how to remove that confusion? That is only basically a confusion. You know something and you don't know something. Same thing. I know something about me. I do not know something about me. What I do not know something about me, my real nature, that I am of the nature of permanent peace and happiness. What I know about myself, that I am stressed. I have lot of challenges. Nothing is happening. You see, confusion, confusion. So to remove the confusion, we are doing viveka. We are doing viveka. So once you remove that confusion, once you remove that confusion, then what happens? The life changes instantly. So I would suggest be a thinker, use your intellect after learning and listening, and even after the practice. We have to remember, if the mind is impulsive, instinctive, habitual, it wants to live into a comfort zone. It is carried away by the likes and dislikes. Hold on. Become aware. Use the intellect. You start thinking only. Mind, you are impulsive, you are instinctive, you are impulsive, you are taking the path of what you like and what is pleasant. That is going to make you more crazy. You simply think. You may have certain egoistic impulse that wants to express itself, but and that is also a thought. So you are thinking. So when you start thinking, and the focus is what is right and good. So the moment you think what is right and good, you are able to understand where lies the confusion. And when you understand that confusion, how do you understand? For example, 7400, 7455 is the name of my house. You remember it. Now you have forgotten. You are reaching my house. Is it 744 or 733? And suddenly the memory, because you have been learning and you have known it in your memory returns to the mind. Yes, 7455. Yes, that's it. I got it. Think of this. The summary is to remove the confusion, to live into discernment. 24 by 7